The first European energy bailouts are here. German utility firm Uniper has its hat in hand, asking the government for a bailout as the flow of Russian gas has slowed to the point where Uniper is bleeding euros. The company has been forced to source natural gas on the spot market, driving Dutch TTF natural gas prices much higher to make up for these futures contracts that they have already sold, i.e. they are net short natural gas, and it looks like the government is here to the rescue. What's up, guys? I'm nobody special, and with that, we are going to shrink my big melon of a head and take a look at some of these articles. This is in Reuters, dated July 5th. Germany prepares to take possible Uniper stake, Handelsblatt reports. Germany is preparing for the possibility of taking a stake in Uniper, the country's largest buyer of Russian gas, Handelsblatt reported, knocking the energy firm's share price. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government, which has warned that utilities could face a Lehman Brothers-style collapse due to soaring energy prices, has agreed to legislation allowing Berlin to take stakes in energy firms which run into financial trouble. And here's another article in Bloomberg, says Germany weighs how much consumers will shoulder Uniper rescue. Uniper shares rise as the government prepares legislation, and the government is weighing the impact on inflation and energy use. Here's a hint, this is going to make inflation a heck of a lot worse, because where are they getting the euros to bail out Uniper? They're going to print them, folks. And printing money leads to inflation. Now, there's an interesting tidbit in this article I wanted to draw your attention to. They say it's not clear yet how the burden will be shared between consumers and taxpayers, as officials estimate the size of the hole to be plugged at Uniper alone to be about 9 billion euros. And I highlighted this because they're saying it's not yet clear how the burden will be shared between consumers and taxpayers. Somebody please tell these guys that consumers and taxpayers are the same people. Whether you take the money from people in the form of their utility bills, or you take the money from the people in the form of their tax dollars, or you take the money in the form of printing euros and stealing their wealth through inflation, either way, the average person is the one footing the bill for this. They're just wondering what is the most politically expedient way to do this. If we rob people via means A, B, or C, which one will make them less likely to vote against us or riot in our capital? And in yet another article here, this is also in Bloomberg, Germany mulls Uniper bailout to stem Russian gas contagion. There was a paragraph in this article that really jumped out at me, and it said this: Uniper was already facing a liquidity crunch even before Russia's war in Ukraine, with wild price swings forcing the company to borrow 10 billion euros to cover margin calls. The funding included 2 billion euros from Germany's state-owned development bank KfW and 8 billion euros from Fortum, which the Finnish utility said has been partially used up. So I want to draw your attention here, folks, because Uniper is already getting state assistance. Germany's state-owned banks have been giving them money so they don't get margin called and be forced to cover their shorts. You see, Uniper is one of these giant companies that they buy the Russian gas and they sell it to the smaller utilities. Well, as normal day-to-day hedging, these companies short natural gas markets. They sell gas they haven't bought yet. Well, now the Russians aren't flowing as much, and the spot price of natural gas has risen, and Uniper still has to deliver on that gas they've already sold. And so the government is going to bail out the shorts by giving them money so they can keep those bad trades alive. In other words, they're printing money to suppress commodity prices. That's kind of like we're doing here in the States. We're not printing money to suppress commodity prices, but we are dumping our strategic petroleum reserve on the open market to suppress oil prices. So it really looks like right now Western governments are engaged in commodity price suppression to try to stem the tide of inflation, which has been made much worse by this war in Ukraine. And the story for European energy gets even worse. This is in CNN Business. Europe braces for another energy shock as Norwegian gas fields close. Europe's energy woes escalated Tuesday as Norwegian oil and gas workers went on strike, shutting 3 fields in the North Sea and causing a spike in natural gas prices. Norway's state-owned energy company Equinor said it had shut the field after some of its employees went on strike over a pay dispute. The 3 fields produced the equivalent of about 89,000 barrels of oil a day, more than 30% of which is natural gas. Norway was the second largest source of natural gas to Europe last year, after only Russia, according to Eurostat data. The disruption comes at a critical moment for the region. This is not good for European energy markets, but wait, there's more. U.S. regulator bars Freeport LNG plant restart over safety concerns, because one of the ways Europe has been offsetting its lack of Russian gas has been buying more liquefied natural gas from the United States. That was until there was an explosion at this Freeport plant limiting the amount of LNG the United States can export, and now it looks like the government is not going to let this Freeport plant come online for at least another 90 to 120 days. This is in Reuters. The second biggest U.S. liquefied natural gas export facility hit by fire earlier this month will not be allowed to repair or restart operations until it addresses risks to public safety, a pipeline regulator said on Thursday. The June 8th blast and fire knocked out Freeport LNG's 15 million tons per year from their Quintana plant, exacerbating global LNG shortages amid reduced gas flows from Russia. The root cause analysis likely will delay a partial restart of the plant for 90 to 120 days and could delay a full restart. So this Freeport plant will not be back online until the fall. So Europe is going to have a hard time replenishing their natural gas inventory before the all-important winter heating season hits. And what does that look like? Well, you can see here in this one-year chart of Dutch TTF natural gas futures. This is the benchmark European natural gas price. And as you can see, they have been just absolutely on a tear for the last couple of days, approaching the highs that we saw at the onset of the invasion in Ukraine. And I just want to add that the Russians are currently scheduled to shut down the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which is the largest pipeline feeding gas into Europe, for maintenance over the next 10 days. Now, that pipeline is only supposed to be down for a little over a week to 10 days. But there's a lot of people who are starting to fear that Vladimir Putin may keep that pipeline shut down as a way to put more pressure on Europe at a time when they're already talking about bailing out their energy companies. So long story short, folks, there is just absolutely no good news on the horizon for European energy markets. You've got the Russians have already reduced the flow. That's causing the need for the German government to bail out their biggest gas utility. You've got this strike going on in the northern gas fields in Europe, and you've got this Freeport plant here in the U.S. that won't be starting up until the fall at least, just as the Russians are about to shut down the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, and whether they start it up again or not is anybody's guess. Now, there's one important factor to keep in mind here. Germany has price controls in place on their utility costs. These utility companies that are paying these higher prices for natural gas, they're not allowed to raise the prices for their consumers, at least not yet. The problem is, if you don't allow those prices to rise, there is no reason or no financial incentive to reduce consumption. So if nothing changes right now, Europe will run out of natural gas this winter. Either prices have to rise or consumption has to be otherwise dramatically curbed. Now, rising prices is very bad politics. So where this is heading, it really looks like we're on our way to rationing energy in Europe this winter. That means the big industrial consumers, the fertilizer plants, the metal smelters, they'll be forced to shut down to make sure people can still heat their homes. That is, at least until somebody explains to the Keynesian economists that are in charge in Western leadership that you can print money until you're red in the face. You cannot print food, oil, or natural gas. Printing money does not solve problems. It just causes new problems, i.e. the inflation that we're all currently living with. And until the adults are put back in charge of Western energy policy, situations like this are going to keep getting out of hand, and everyday people are going to be the ones who suffer because of it. Till next time, live small and dream big.